You're watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Here's your host, Don Ansell.
Jim Leutze is our guest, former Chancellor UNCW, running for as a Democrat for the New Hanover County State Senate seat. So what about this $1 billion Skyway? Do you support that?
I would have to look at that more carefully to give you a really whether it's $1 billion or less than $1 billion or exactly how much it ought to be. But let me make this point. We have to begin looking regionally at what is happening here in southeastern North Carolina. And I want to work across regional lines. We have, as far as I know, have not really seriously considered what's going to happen when the megaport is built in Southport. This is a huge...
You believe that's going to happen?
I believe it's going to happen. I believe, and I just heard a presentation. I'm on the offshore...
Do you want that to happen?
Energy. I have mixed feelings about it. I'm concerned about the environmental impact of it and how it is done. On the other hand, I understand that North Carolina wants to remain competitive in the ports business. And I was just heard, I'm on the Offshore Energy Commission, and just heard a presentation from the state of Virginia on what they're doing in the Norfolk News, Virginia Beach area. They are putting billions of dollars into the development of that port there. They're currently the 5th largest port. They want to be the 2nd or 3rd largest port on the East Coast. The same's happening in Charleston and Savannah.
So the Skyway...
The Skyway is
would be really
to that.
For commerce and not so people can get from one side from Brunswick County to New Hanover County with a third alternative, which is what nobody's saying it's for the port.
Well,
when it comes to
I think
selling
whether it would be for commerce or whether it would be because the other arteries are going to be taken up with commercial activity, and you're going to have more of a civilian transportation route, or whatever we want to call it, if we call it non-commercial. My point being, we got to do some long-range planning, and we continue to come up with these things like a one-shot, and look at it as a one-shot deal. And on the Skyway, the Skyway has to be linked into the entire transportation network of New Hanover, Pender, Brunswick, Duplin counties, and how that then relates.
But you don't know yet if you support that.
I do not know yet whether I support that.
You know about the ABC controversy. Goodness knows there's been enough farce decimated to write about it.
Yeah.
Do you think it should be privatized?
I think it should be privatized. And I think, and I think it gives, when you talk about waste, fraud, and abuse in the state government, it gives the state government a bad name when things like this happen.
What about Titan Cement? Are you in favor of building?
I have a very nuanced view as far as Titan Cement is concerned. I wish Titan Cement would get all of their environmental permits before Titan Cement proceeds. In other words, there are still air quality permits that are out there that I wish they would go ahead and get. I am not thrilled about the fact that Titan Cement is being built on a pristine waterway that I like to fish in, and I have real qualms about the effect that it's going to have. But Don, this is part of the issue here for me. We have to do something more as far as comprehensive planning and visioning of what we want from for this area. And it's hard to fit these individual pieces in unless you can see how they fit into a more comprehensive picture. What do we want this? I wrote an article for the newspaper on this. I think that we ought to decide, do we want to be an industrial complex in which we take whatever jobs may come, or do we want to design ourselves as an arts, educational, high quality?
What would you prefer? You're going to...
I certainly would prefer the latter, but I also would like, I understand that you can't just live under a bubble, so I'd like to have some mix in mind of how much of the intellectual PPD type work going on here, and how much of the work do you want to be of the kind that would be at a Titan Cement plant.
Let's talk about the whole convention center project for Wilmington. First of all, were you in favor from the start?
Yes.
You were.
I was for years.
Because the legislature was instrumental in finding a way to fund that without
Yes.
using taxpayer dollars. And let's get back to coastal issues. What about this whole, and again, you've been in the forefront of leadership on some of these issues. What about the whole issue of allowing hardened structures like groins and various types of walls as a way of dealing with shoreline erosion?
The Coastal Resources Commission, and I'm on the Coastal Resources Commission, and I'm actually on the subcommittee that is looking at terminal groins, has been studying this actually by, by the request of the General Assembly for the past year, but we've been looking at it for years before that. We are not ready, and I'm not ready to come up with a, we're going to report to the General Assembly in April on what our decision is on this issue. It is very complicated, and it is not, terminal groins sometimes work and sometimes they don't work. They do not never work, as far as we can tell, as far as the information we can get. But then there's the question of precedent. If you allow one terminal groin, are you going to allow other terminal groins? So it's a highly nuanced, difficult issue. We'll report in April, and I'll be prepared to give you my comment after that.
All right, and we'll ask you again.
Okay.
What's your take on the Easley scandals, the indictments for improper campaign practices, fraud, apparent pay-for-play politics?
It saddens me. I knew Governor Easley. I know Governor Easley, and I know Ruffin Poole, who was one of his assistants, who would call when it comes to being appointed to a commission. Ruffin was the person that called you. He's got 2 young children. I think it's very, very sad to see what happened. Now, what happened? We don't fully know what happened, but it appears that there was a climate and an attitude of pay for play, so-called. In other words, that you paid and then you got some benefit as a result.
Is this really unusual in politics?
No.
So
but let me say this. I have no business interests. I am not interested in advancing any business interests. My door is going to be open to anybody, whether they give to my campaign or not, and I will do everything I can to clean up and to change the atmosphere that allowed this to go on. But that still does not keep me from being sad for the people who have lost their reputations and have been hurt, and some may go to jail.
When you were chancellor, were you ever pressured by higher-ups to do things that were questionable?
Never.
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 Do you think revelations like what have been coming out about the Easley administration undermine the political system and the people's confidence in government?
Absolutely. I mean, this is why it is sad from a whole range of not just the personal side, but because it helps undermine people's confidence in government.
Because people say government's broken, and that's a wide-ranging.
I think government. I mean, if you look at the national level, I think government is broken. I have some real problems, but I'm not running for that office.
Well, is the state government broken?
I think the state government needs to be cleaned up. I think that we need to do everything we can to restore public trust and make sure that the people who are serving are actually serving because they want to serve, not because they're trying to forward some business interest.
How do you do that?
You do that by various ethics laws and other things that you pass, by strict rules that you make about what benefits people can expect from a campaign contribution. You make it clear, just as I just made it clear, anybody who gives to my campaign will have the same, they will have no more or no less access than somebody who doesn't give to my campaign. And I'm not going to be forwarding any business interests or any other interests that are not in the general interest of the people of the state.
I always find it interesting, because I think people do give large amounts of money for access to
right.
leaders.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. And they should have access just like everybody else should have access.
We're out of time. But after the primary.
Very good. Thank you, Don.
Next week, you'll want to stay tuned. Medical ethics, advertising prescription medications, trips, educational trips for doctors. We'll talk about all of this with a local doctor next Byline. Have a great week.
You've been watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Join us every Sunday morning at 11 as we explore the issues that concern you.